Boy, oh boy, the Trump regime is just batting a fucking thousand. I mean, for God's sakes, I mean, everything that I am hearing, it's just always something bad. If there's a chance for him to make a good decision, it turns out to be bullshit. You know, like there's a deal on the table with Iran to try to make a peace deal, but that turns out to be absolute bullshit, or it ends up getting scuttled by senators like Chuck Schumer, or, he said, I remember he said we're going to have to go after the waste, fraud, and abuse in the military. Meanwhile, they increased the military budget by 13% to $1.1 trillion, y'all. $1 trillion military budget. Meanwhile, the military has not passed an audit in the last 20 years, and they can't account for over 60% of the money that we've given them. So, that turned out to be bullshit. He last week he threatened to take away Elon subsidies, and I was like, oh God, please. But of course, Elon kissed his ass a little bit and said, oh, I'm really sorry about some of the tweets that I said. Which one, man? The one where you called him a pedophile who was on Pedophile Island with Jeffrey Epstein, or the one that you said that you basically won the election for Donald Trump? I mean, I'm not sure which one that you're feeling really bad about. Whichever one that's going to make sure that you get your government subsidies back, and Donald Trump, you can get back in the good graces of Donald Trump. But it's not just the big stuff like all of the ridiculous tariffs that are raising our prices to the roof. And of course, we're not making any more money. The economy's looking like absolute dog shit. And the Gestapo with the ICE going into into LA, and soon probably in a city near you, or just the fact that we continue to fund the genocide of the Gazans by giving Israel all of the bombs, 2,000-pound bombs to drop on people in tents. So, I mean, every time I turn around, it's just another bad decision. Well, here's one for you. Now, it's not just the big stuff, it's also the small stuff. White House proposes axing the 988 suicide hotline service for the LGBT youth. Now, in his first term, Donald Trump he started the 988 suicide hotline. I was like, okay, well, that's good. We can, that's good. People who are in desperate need somebody to talk to. They have this. I was like, okay, well, that's a good idea. Well, he's cutting a piece of it. Not all of it, just a piece. The Department of Health and Human Services proposed budget for 2026 eliminates specialized suicide hotline services for the LGBTQ youth and young adults. The budget proposal, which the department published Friday, designates $520 million for 988, the suicide prevention line, and behavioral health crisis service, which is the same amount Biden administration provided for the 988 line. However, in the 2026 budget proposal would end government funding for the LGBTQ specific counseling for 988 callers upon request. When asked for comment, the spokesperson for the Health and Human Services directed NBC News to the White House Office of Management and Budget. Okay, well, we don't really have an answer for you. Please don't ask those questions. Just go ask somebody else. So they did. They reached out to Rachel Cawley, a spokesperson for the OMB, noted that the proposed budget would provide the same amount of 988 services that was provided in the previous years under Trump. It does, quote, it does not, however, grant taxpayer money to chat services, way to belittle it, chat services where children are encouraged to embrace radical gender ideology. Radical gender ideology. Honey, it's not a fucking religion. It's not an ideology. Either you're gay or you're straight. If you're trans or you're cis. It's not an ideology. You didn't study it in a book. It's just who you are. Embrace radical gender ideology by counselors, in quotes, without consent or knowledge of their parents. Now, all of this stuff, we got to protect the children. We got to protect the children. We got to protect the children. Oh my God. Meanwhile, in states like Texas, they're like, hey, if you're an adult and you try to change your birth certificate or you try to change your driver's license from male to female, you can be arrested for fraud. So they're going after adults. It's not about the children. That was the starting point. Rachel, radical gender ideology is a political term adopted by conservatives and Donald Trump administration. I remember back a couple of years ago, Donald Trump was giving a speech to a whole bunch of Republicans, and he's like, 10 years ago, you guys didn't care anything about the transgenders. Now, all of a sudden, all you care about is transgenders. So all I got to do is just say transgender and you lose your mind. Well, he ain't wrong about that. To describe the existence of transgender people and the trans right movement, which is considered harmful to children. That's their radical gender ideology. National Suicide Prevention Hotline has existed since 2005, and in 2020, during the first term, Trump signed legislation designating 988 as the new lifeline number by 2022. The legislation required that 988 provide LGBTQ youth and young adults who call the line with access to specially trained staff and partner organizations, noting that the queer and the trans youth are more than 4 or 5 times more likely to contemplate suicide than their peers, with 1 in 5 LGBTQ youth and more than 1 in 3 transgender youth reporting attempting suicide. So you have a marginalized group of gay and trans people who are really upset and sad about what people like Donald Trump and conservatives all across the country, while they're passing hundreds and hundreds of state laws against them, which makes them feel really sad, alone, and unwanted. So they need somebody to talk to. Well, oftentimes, a lot of these people's families have turned their back on them. I, of course, am transgender, and I had to say goodbye to my family for over a decade because they didn't want to have anything to do with me. Luckily, I had a good friend base that I could lean on. But a lot of these young people don't have anybody to lean on. Their family has ostracized them, and they're left alone. So the Trump administration is making these people feel worse and then taking away a small little program that could actually help them. So you fuck them, and then you take away any kind of help that they can get. You are doing everything you can to go after this marginalized group. Senior administration official said that the money for the services of the LGBT youth people has not been cut, but rather reallocated to the general 988. Okay, so we're just not going to have any specialized services here. What is wrong with you people? Seriously, what's wrong with you people? This is a small marginalized group of people. There's probably about 10% of America is gay and less than 1% is transgender. But, you know, that is, other than immigrants coming into the country, the biggest villains are trans people who are coming after your kids. I hate kids. I don't want to say that. I don't hate kids. I don't like kids. I don't like being around kids. Most of the time, I think that children are just incubuses for viral infectious plague because they're always sick and they're always coughing and hacking and wiping their boogers on everything. So, you know what? I'm not really a big old fan of kids. I certainly don't want to be hanging around with them trying to spread my gender ideology on them. Oh my God, I'm coming to get them. I'm coming to get them. Look at me. I'm devilish. I'm evil. I'm filled with sin and immorality. Meanwhile, you got Republican Party who is desperate to look at child genitalia. That little short-haired girl right there that's playing soccer against my girl, she's too good. Y'all need to inspect her genitals to make sure she's not a boy, because there is no way that my young daughter could get beaten so badly on the soccer field. It's not fair. Look at her genitals. I want to see if she's got a dick or not. What the fuck is wrong with y'all, man? Seriously. And to continue on with this petty theme of ridiculousness, Donald Trump, let me see here, what we got here. In the Independent, Trump team ends $18 million terrorist prevention program designed to ID lone wolves before they attack. $18 million is a drop in the bucket. When you're talking about trillions of dollars for the government budget. That's with what, 12 zeros? Yeah, 12 zeros. We're talking about $18 million in terrorist prevention to go after lone wolves. Lone wolves are difficult to find. They're not affiliated with a lot of, the terrorist elements out there, so they're difficult to find. And we have this, this under DHS, I believe it's DHS. Let's read on here. Donald Trump administration is axing a division of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, designed to prevent domestic terrorism attacks committed by individual perpetrators and trains officials to negate future attacks, worrying prevention advocates. The Center for Prevention of Programs and Partnerships, CP3, was an arm of DHS that provided federal resources, a whole $18 million nationwide, to local and state officials to thwart lone wolf attacks, an increasingly common type of attack. In those instances, attacks are carried out by individuals not part of an organized group. Examples include the recent Boulder, Colorado attack, which a man threw incendiary devices in a group of Israeli hostage advocates, as well as the murder of 2 young Israeli embassy staffers outside of the capital of the Jewish Museum. CP3 aimed to reduce the instances of those attacks by understanding domestic violent trends, such as those tracked by Terrorism and Targeted Violence Database, and provided training throughout programs which as the Targeting Violence and Terrorism Prevention granted. The Republican Party does not give a shit about that. I mean, they released all the January 6 rioters. They do not care about domestic terrorism. No matter what they say, they really don't care about it. He said, there's fine people on both sides at the Unite the Right rally where they're marching around with Nazi flags and Confederate flags chanting the Jews will not replace us. He does not really give a good goddamn about those potential terrorists right there. When, by the way, a young girl named Heather Heyer was run over by a car by one of those sickos. But he doesn't care about that kind of stuff. Honestly, he sees those people as allies. And if the terrorists out there who are not allies happen to do any terrorism, then they could be used for the other side of it. It's like, we need more funding for the military. We need more funding for ICE and DHS. We got to go after those people. So it's, good for them and good for them on both sides of this thing. It doesn't matter what the terrorist is. If you're on his side, he'll let you off. And if you're not on his side, then he'll use you as propaganda. So, God damn, man. $18 million? $18 million to stop lone wolf attacks. The President Donald Trump's budget said the DHS could reallocate roughly $18 million by axing the center and its grants, which administration claims were weaponized to target Americans exercising their First Amendment right. So we have known for a while now that the largest domestic terrorist group in America are conservative Republican men. They seem to do the most shit. You remember the guy with the pipe bombs? Yet again, another conservative, Trump-supporting guy. The guy that went after Nancy Pelosi and her husband and beat him with a fucking hammer within an inch of his life. Yet again, another Trump-supporting male. So would that be considered First Amendment right? He just wanted to talk to Nancy Pelosi with a hammer in his hand, Meanwhile, you got Donald Trump Jr. out there making jokes about it. This is my Halloween costume. It's a hammer and a pair of underwear. Nancy Pelosi's husband was actually gay and it was a gay lover. Yeah, whatever. You do not give a flying fuck about domestic terrorism. You just don't care. But yet, here we are, man. Just big shit, little shit. The Donald Trump regime just wants to cause fucking chaos. They do not care about you as a citizen. If you are beneficial to him, he will sing your praises. But if you go against him even in the least bit, he's got nothing for you but law and order, send the military, send the police, crack their skulls. Oh, you got a suicide problem? Well, maybe you should just go ahead and die. That's what I think. Just go on. Just go on and kill yourself. That's all I really need to say. This man is heartless. He is petty. And he is a fascist wannabe dictator. And everything that he decides to do just turns out to be absolute dog shit. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.